I don't like the BMF belt. There, I said it. In fact, I hate the BMF belt. Now, I know that might be a controversial opinion, but I'm going to tell you why I don't like it in today's video, because it's cringe, it's corny, and I think it's just downright silly as well, okay? It was brought back for Poirier versus Gaethje 2 at UFC 291, announced yesterday, and we all know the reason why it's been brought back, and this is one of the many reasons why I don't like this belt whatsoever, because basically, it's an excuse to have a title fight on a pay-per-view that doesn't have a title fight. Let's be real. How convenient that the only time the BMF belt has been introduced to us and then reintroduced was whenever there wasn't a title fight for a pay-per-view and they needed to make sure there was a title fight for a pay-per-view. That's all they're doing right now. It's so silly to me. Masvidal versus Nate Diaz. No title fight on that pay-per-view. Oh, the BMF belt, everyone. And then it vanished. And then we get Poirier versus Gaethje 2. An absolutely fine main event, in my opinion. Oh, the BMF belt's back, everyone, because we don't have a title fight on the card again. It's so strange to me. I don't like it for that reason. And I don't like it for many other reasons as well. You can't even... The UFC can't even say what BMF stands for. They can't do it. They invented a belt where, under the rules of promotion, they can't even say what it stands for. That's how silly that belt is. Okay? And second of all, the BMF belt vanished into obscurity after Jorge Masvidal fought Nate Diaz. And you may be saying because, well, Masvidal never put it up on the line anymore, and that was all silly because, let's be real, if you're really a BMF, you're putting it on the line. Because as far as I'm concerned, Masvidal didn't relinquish the BMF belt so it can be for Poirier versus Gaethje. As far as I'm concerned, Leon Edwards is the BMF world champion. He's the lineal BMF world champion. Listen to the silliness that's going on right now. This is why I don't like that belt whatsoever. I get it's a promotion tool, but the only people I think that would really attract in any way to watch a UFC event are like children who can't even buy the pay-per-view anyway. So what's the point? Like, I'm not into the BMF belt whatsoever. It's not... I don't get it. I really don't get it. I don't like the fact that it's never put back on the line again. And maybe, who knows, this new BMF world champion, the second BMF world champion of history, is going to maybe put it on the line. The winner of Poirier versus Gaethje is going to put it on the line against whoever they take on. And maybe, just maybe, this is all a promotion tool so that if Conor McGregor beats Michael Chandler, which could still be at 155 because they're taking a long time to make that fight, so maybe McGregor's trimming down a little bit and getting into 155-pound shape. Who knows? Maybe they're trying to use this so they can have Conor McGregor fight for it in the future. So the winner of Poirier versus Gaethje 2 can fight the winner of McGregor versus Chandler. If it's Conor McGregor, then they're going to do Conor McGregor versus the winner of Poirier versus Gaethje 2 for the BMF world title, and the winner of that is going to take on Islam Makhachev for the lightweight world championship. Who knows? Maybe that's their massive plan that they're doing right now. But I don't like it. I think it's childish. I really don't like it, and I remember the cringe. I know people found it cool, and I kind of found it a little bit interesting when I was watching it live. I believe it was UFC 244 when they first did this with Masvidal and Diaz, and it was the BMF World Championship and all this. And it was somewhat interesting of a concept. But whenever I look back at The Rock coming out with the BMF World title, there's only one BMF. And then Masvidal getting it wrapped around his waist. Some 50-50 fighter who, because he sucker punches people in the street, is now being given a new belt. He's so cool, everyone. Let's give him a BMF belt. I've never understood it. And when I look back at that going on, I cringe. I just cringe. Why is there this random belt? It delegitimizes the other belts. The only belt that should exist in the UFC is the World Championship. One in every weight class. That's it. I don't need some extra little gimmicky belt because you don't have a title fight on a pay-per-view and you conveniently need a title fight on a pay-per-view. I don't need to see that. And if you are going to do it, make it legitimate and make it actually mean something where we can track where it's going and we can track who actually has it based on matchups. Because I don't know about you guys, but I know Usman isn't technically a BMF because he's a crotch sniffer. But I know I don't like the grappling part of the sport as much as the striking. But this almost seems like The UFC just counting out grapplers, basically. You shot a takedown in your last fight. You're not eligible. You're not eligible for the BMF belt. You know what I mean? You have a wrestling style. You're not eligible. You're not cool enough. It's like we're supposed to be teaching new fans to appreciate grappling. You know what I mean? Not jiu-jitsu, it's soy. Appreciate grappling in general in MMA. High-level grappling. We're supposed to treat new fans and teach new fans to appreciate that. But when you do this and you do it for just strikers only, everyone, it delegitimizes the grapplers. And maybe that's a good thing because I prefer striking matches. We all do. Okay? I know some people are like, oh, a nice armbar, nothing like it. A head kick KO. Much better, dude. Much better. I'll tell you that much. I like the submission game. But the striking's way better. I get that. But still, it's a little bit counterintuitive to mixed martial arts. I'll tell you this as well. Although they never handed it over, Usman's flatline KO over Jorge Masvidal was pretty BMF. That was a BMF KO right there. After that fight, Usman seemed like a BMF to me. I'll be honest with you, he did. That massive KO and then him tensing on top of the cage, that was a pretty BMF moment. So that belt should have been handed over. And then whoever Usman beat next, he should have retained the belt. Retained it again. And then eventually fights Leon Edwards. Gets head kicked. The belt transitions over. If that was a thing, and we genuinely got to see it get passed around, you know what I mean? Then maybe I'd care about it a bit more. But if it's just going to be some silly gimmick as an excuse to have a title fight on a pay-per-view where you don't have a title fight booked, I don't need it. We don't need it. Maybe it helps with the promotion. Who knows? Poirier versus Gaethje is good enough. 5-round main event. Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje 2. We didn't need a BMF belt for McGregor versus Diaz 2 when that was a main event of a pay-per-view, or McGregor versus Diaz 1, and they sold fine. Those pay-per-views sold fine. We didn't need some silly gimmicky title on the line. It made no sense whatsoever. And this is a slippery slope. If we keep letting this go on, I just don't like it. It makes me cringe, man. And now remember, you are the BMF world champion. He's 30 and fucking 18, dude. I'm not talking about Pat Barry and Rose's age gap. I'm talking about like Masvidal's record here. You know what I mean? What is his record? And it's just like, dude, you are the reigning BMF world champion. He's 35 and 17, man. He keeps losing, but he's still the reigning defending champ. You're telling me Masvidal was still the reigning defending BMF champ in his Gilbert Burns fight? And only once he retired and let his lineage pass over. I don't like it at all, man. Dude put together a 3-fight or a 2-fight win streak, including a great flying knee, don't get me wrong. But he basically put together a 2-fight win streak after a 2-fight losing streak, by the way. And then all of a sudden there's this new title on the line. I don't like it. I don't like it whatsoever. It's silly. It's dumb. It's just some little childish thing in the middle of like a cage fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's a cage fight. They're fighting and people get seriously hurt. This is a real thing. This is a real dangerous sport. Forget this BMF thing, man. That's silly to me. What's going to happen now? Again, I don't mind it if it gets passed around now. You know what I mean? Like Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje winner. Maybe it's Poirier. And then because of the controversy in the third fight with McGregor, they do McGregor versus Poirier if McGregor beats Chandler at the end of the year. And then there's a BMF belt on the line. And then McGregor wins and has it over his shoulder. And he's fighting Makhachev and he's got his belt and Makhachev's got his. And it's actually put on the line. Maybe that would be a cool image. But I still don't like it. I still don't like it, man. When you really think about it, everyone in the sport is a BMF. You know what I mean? It's just silly. And it annoys me. Like, I don't mind it, but man, I wish it wasn't there. And I was happy it was in the past because, as I said, when I saw The Rock walking out with it, it's like, oh, this is so WWE and dumb. I don't like this at all. And the only reason I would like it is if it actually got treated like a real title. And Edwards, at the moment, was also the reigning defending BMF champ. And then maybe at some point he goes up and fights Adesanya, and then that's on the line. Like, I wanted to actually see it get like moved around, like along with the performances, the wins or the losses with whoever had it at the time. And then maybe at some point, like, you never know how these things work. It's like some weird thing, like, and then you look back over 10 years and it's gone from welterweight up to light heavyweight, and then somehow back to middleweight, back to welterweight, and then a lightweight guy comes up, takes it down to lightweight. A featherweight guy moves up, moves back down, and it just goes all over the place in the sport. And it's like something where we can really test the lineage of it. Masvidal's just some like guy with no emotional control, basically. Like, I know he's street and he does his hair in braids. I get that. Like, oh, geez, he's tough. I know. Compared to all those other guys, the other 17 guys that beat him. Rafael Assunção, the bantamweight that beat him, ain't tough. But Masvidal, oh, he braids his hair. He's a goon from Miami, dude. He like puts his hands behind his back sometimes when he's walking up to you. I'm telling you, this guy's tough. So he gets a new title introduced. And now it's like, oh, he's had it this whole time. Oh, it's relinquished, is it? Now that he's retired, he's letting his lineage part. It's just so silly to me. And I know some people are going to be there like, shut up, Guru. You hate too much. You hate too much that goes on. I'm a hateful person, dude. I like it. It makes me feel good. I vent myself. I like vent out a lot of stuff when I'm hating on things, okay? And I love hating stuff because I do hate it, and I'm not going to pretend that I don't, okay? I'm not just going to sit along and say, oh, great, BMF belt. Looking forward to it, guys. Can't wait to see this one never get defended again because a grappler's up next. Silliness. All it is an excuse to have a title fight on a non-title fight pay-per-view. We don't need it. It's a great pay-per-view. And I just don't want to hear the promo. And the winner is going to be fighting for the BMF World Championship tonight. I don't want to see that. And of course, tonight on the line is the BMF World Championship passed down from Jorge Gamebred Masvidal himself tonight between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. I don't want to see it. It's just silly. It's a dumb little belt. I don't like interim belts. I don't like them. One belt, interim belts, very extreme circumstances. Not because the Australia card at the start of this year is looking pretty weak. I know Volk's going to be back at featherweight in about 6 months because now he's fighting in July. You know what I mean? So he's back already in the featherweight division. I know Volk's not going to be too long before he's gone, but I know he's coming back in July. But let's make an interim belt in featherweight. Yair versus Josh Emmett. Oh, by the way, Yair's coming off a loss. The less belts, the better, man. The less belts, the better the belts. You know what I'm saying? The lower the belt count, the better the individual belts that remain. It's just like that. Abundance ruins the sport. Not in terms of fighters, because it will create a harder talent pool. But in terms of belts, like, you've got to have just one in a division. It's silliness. It makes me cringe. I don't even like hearing about it. I don't want to see it promoted. Because when you look at someone like Gaethje's been crowned the BMF and Poirier's been crowned the BMF, I just look through their record and say, well, that guy beat him and that guy beat him. What are they? Are they not? It's just silly because if it was at the very top of the sport that you were putting this sort of stuff on and giving out these gift belts and these new designs of belts for certain fights, like if eventually they did like a, I don't know, some kind of like the rival world championship for like a Pereira once he's champ at light heavyweight maybe down the line, and Adesanya's moving up, and it's a belt to settle their beef once and for all, along with the 2 belts that are on the line between them. I still don't even like that. I don't like that I came up with that on the spot. I don't like that. But it would at least make sense because they're at the top of the sport. But then I'm like, so Masvidal's the BMF belt, but Covington isn't? Because he just ragdolled him for 5 rounds. Usman flatline KO'd him. What's Usman? Edwards flatline KO'd Usman. What's Edwards? You know what I mean? How does it make any sense? Is the guy that got illegally kneed by Edwards at Bama at the start of his career and won, is he the BMF lineal champ right now? It's just some silly nonsense, man. Silliness. And I don't think it adds that much to the pay-per-view either. I just looked back and I was like, you know what? It happened. I wasn't happy about it that much. It makes me cringe. It's childish. It's silly. But at least it's in the past and we can move on and make this a legitimate sport. And what do you know? We don't have a title fight. But Poirier Gaethje, we want to make that the main event. Poirier's friends with Masvidal. Maybe we can just ask Did they have to ask Masvidal? I wonder if they had to ask to get his blessing, like he's some mafia boss. You know what I mean? They had to go to him on the day of his daughter's wedding and ask if he could relinquish his BMF belt as his one favor. You know? I don't know, dude. It's just silly to me. Oh, please, Masvidal, I know it's crazy, but could you, like, step down as the BMF champ and, like, retire it so we could give it to Poirier and Gaethje? Just silly, man. We don't need that. But if McGregor's got it, I'll be a fanboy. I don't care. You know what I mean? No, I'm joking. It'll still be silly. Because then you'll be like, well, Khabib's the fucking BMF champ. Because Khabib's choked out all three of these bitches. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, Poirier, Gaethje, and now McGregor's fighting for it. And Khabib's just sitting there like, I choked out all three of these. You know what I mean? Khabib's just in the background like, where the fuck is my BMF belt? I didn't get cut in my entire career. Is that not BMF? I haven't lost. You know what I mean? Now quitting the sport because your mummy told you to kind of disqualifies you from the BMF discussion, I think, in my opinion. Who knows, though? I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Pulling out of every fight when you've got a minor injury and only fighting when you're 100% other than the Gaethje fight isn't very BMF. But you get my point. It just becomes dumb. But whatever. I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy the charade of it all. Silliness. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Thought I'd just voice my opinion on it. I'm a very hateful person, I've realized recently. I seem to have problems with everything. Even in real life when I'm just walking around. You know what I mean? I just look at people like, oh, you fucking retard. Like, I just the way my mind works, I find problems with things. With everything, you know what I mean? Every behavior of someone that goes on. But why'd you fucking cross the road like that, you dumb bitch? You know what I mean? Like, just little things. I think this way my mind's programmed. But maybe I'm right on this. Maybe I'm not in for another 90% like to dislike ratio like that Ngannou video. We'll see. See you later. Goodbye. Ngannou should have fought Jones, and now he's going to fight fat old men. I stand by that claim. It was a bad move. See ya.